Welcome back, and still staying with Eskom-related matters. The former Chief Financial Officer Anuj Singh, who is implicated in the state capture allegations, has been suspended by the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, SAICA. We'll look at the implications of this as well as the troubles at VBS Bank and the sale of Mercantile Bank in South Africa by the Portuguese government. And our guest is Sikonathi Mantshantsha of Financial Mail. He's covered these issues and he's got strong views about them. Sikonathi, I do follow your views on social media, and I suppose they are the same as what you would say in your pieces, right? It's not one view this side and another view that side. But let's go back to...
I'm one and the same person.
One and the same person, very consistent with your views, which is one trait I admire about you and your work. For instance, we've spoken about Eskom before, and we've spoken specifically about Anuj Singh. So he's been suspended by SAICA, and this, I suppose, means something, even though others might argue. Why would SAICA, on the basis of allegations, go out of its way and suspend Anuj Singh? You know the typical argument, innocent until proven guilty, so why suspend him?
Yeah, you suspend him so you can charge him and present the evidence upon which you based that decision, and find him guilty or otherwise and deal with him accordingly. However, the matter about Anuj Singh at this very point now is just really an academic exercise and SAICA playing to the gallery. Where have they been all this time? Anuj Singh has been at Eskom since 2015 and was suspended and is not trading, is not practicing at this very point. He doesn't need their membership. They waited until too late, and that's not because they did not know what was going on, but like everybody else, they were burying deliberately their head in the sand. Even the charges that they have leveled against him, matters of being dishonesty, of being dishonest, of being an unreliable and unworthy of an accountant, that's nothing. There's a whole, those are serious matters indeed, but relative to the scale of the many charges they could have preferred, criminal charges against Anuj Singh, one of theft as a start. 1.6 billion rand was stolen from Eskom and given to Mackenzie and Trillion. Anuj Singh played the biggest role in that. That does not feature anywhere in those charges. And what's the biggest, what could be the worst outcome for him if he's convicted in any of these charges? A penalty of 250,000 rands. He probably has that in the back of his pocket. It makes absolutely no difference in his life.
But now, the fact that SAICA has taken this step, does it add or subtract to the possibility of him facing some criminal charges, at least from the state agencies, from the criminal justice system, that is?
That is exactly my point, Tim. This means absolutely nothing. It's just that they don't want to be associated with people like him all of a sudden. They were happy having him as a member when 19 billion rand was stolen from the people of South Africa, stolen and laundered through China South Rail and given to the Guptas. Who played the role there, who made all of that possible? It was Anuj Singh. And that's just one of the many hundreds of charges, criminal charges that the guy could be charged with.
The point is that is made, you know, and he could use the same argument. He said, but according to you, Sikonathi, that's your view, but the criminal justice system has not found anything on me. I've not been charged with anything. I'm not facing any prosecution. Why is that, you think?
That is exactly the problem of this country. Remember, the past 10 years we've had a government led by a president whose job seemed only to dismantle and make sure that nothing in the state survives. And Anuj Singh today is walking free, not having to answer to any of the charges of corruption, of money laundering, of theft that could be preferred against him. That's not because there's no evidence. There's a lot of evidence on which he could be prosecuted. It's just that no one is willing to do it. Jacob Zuma and his government did a great job of killing the law enforcement agencies, the whole state machinery. We don't even have a prosecutor. Sean Abrams, I don't know what he does there. What Anuj Singh should be charged with is theft, is fraud, is money laundering, is corruption.
Is that likely to happen now that SICA has suspended him?
SICA, those have nothing whatsoever to do with SICA. SICA should have taken the evidence and laid criminal charges against him.
Yeah.
They didn't do that, and they are not even trying to do it. They are not even pretending they want to do it. All they are doing now is they just want, they're trying to find a way of distancing themselves from him without actually saying, he's not one of us if he behaves like that. Yet they have known about all of this. As a chartered accountant, he's the person that compiled financial statements at Transnet. He's the person that was in charge of Transnet when 19 billion rand was stolen because he put the signature to paper. So everything happened at Eskom like that. SICA had this evidence. It did nothing about it.
And I can understand the passion with which you say this because you have had the evidence for some time, or you knew this all along. Did you?
Of course, you read
SICA might
about
say,
it.
like everybody else, we only got to know now recently.
I told for the past 10 years, I've been telling the people of South Africa in all the publications I've worked on, particularly in Business Day and the Financial Mail. I've laid out all the evidence there. He's being charged today because of that evidence, but there are people who are not doing what they should be doing. I'm saying all of this based on the evidence that is available to law enforcement agencies, to organizations like SICA. I have done the work on that. Many journalists here have really done a great job of bringing the evidence forward. Guess what? The people who gave us the evidence gave up talking to the police, talking to the...
now we have a strike going
auditors.
on at Eskom at this time, and the experience of load shedding once again as a result of this. Or is it an exaggerated connection that one is making to what you've just said now?
There's no exaggeration here, Tim. Eskom has lost in the past 10 years about 200 billion rand, Eskom alone. And that is money that you and I, the people of South Africa, have lost. And we are paying today 5 times more than we did for electricity 10 years ago. That's money that's being stolen from us. Now, the employees at Eskom that are going on strike, the company has been gutted, and not entirely the people's fault that work there. There are executives that have been making these decisions. The people like Anuj Singh. It has come back to bite us. You and I, the consumer, have to suffer, and that's the consequence of everything. And the really insulting thing is that nobody has been arrested.
But I'm sure you're optimistic that at some point something will happen, I suppose. One of the law enforcement or the criminal justice agencies will come to life and take appropriate action. I'm sure you have that expectation. But let me talk about a relatively unrelated matter, but there is a connection somehow to these things, and that's the matter of the VBS Bank. When the Reserve Bank said that it was going to place it under administration because they were detecting problems there, there were people who jumped up and were very upset that this is a black-owned bank and the Reserve Bank is demonstrating that it is owned by some other interests that are urging them on to close the bank. Now it emerges the problems within the bank might be much more complex and deeper than initially thought. What's your take of the developments at VBS?
Now, Tim, there's this shallow mentality in this country, particularly by politicians, those of a particular party, where they only look at the color of the problems, like this is a black bank, white bank. And if you look closely, as I have done, a lot of those people that were jumping up and down are guilty of stealing money from the bank.
Are guilty?
Yes, of stealing money from VBS Mutual Bank.
Which people would be who then?
We will get there in time.
Yeah.
Those political parties, those so-called leaders that were jumping up and down and saying, don't touch the black bank, are afraid of being arrested if we had any law enforcement agencies, because money from VBS Mutual Bank went to finance their lifestyles and their political parties. That's just a start. Secondly, they jump out and say, this is a black bank, black people are being victimized. 7,688 stokvels have lost about 2 billion rand from the thieving that happened at VBS Mutual Bank. Who does stokvels in this country? Black people. Who are the victims of the thieving that happened at, and I repeat, thieving that happened at VBS Mutual Bank. It's black people. The municipalities that lost money there, who are they serving? Black people. So where is this black thing? Look closely at who's been making noise about why is that bank in trouble. The people that are jumping up and down and defending the bank, and then ask them, excuse me, where did you get that 2 million rand? That's the reality of this country. Money from that bank, again, just like at Eskom and at Transnet and at the SABC, at all these organizations, has been stolen in a similar manner. And again, chartered accountants, like Anuj Singh, as an example, have been putting their stamp, approving and saying, and lying to the Reserve Bank, saying we've got this amount of money in the bank, when it turns out there's nothing. The bank is on its knees.
If I understand you then you can tell me about some of the things they are finding there from the Reserve Bank point of view. Therefore, you agree with the action that is being taken by the Reserve Bank on this matter?
Absolutely. You have to protect depositors' money. If Tim and Sikonathi and Tsulu go deposit 10,000 rands or 1,000 rand in a bank, we must get the money back whenever we want it. If the management of that bank is involved in stealing the money, that's a criminal action. And it compromises the whole banking system. If a bank like VBS collapses, Standard Bank has lost money because deposits there and vice versa. And so it goes. That's how banks collapse.
It threatens the banking system in South Africa.
It threatens the whole banking system.
Now, I've seen, as I said, I also follow your opinions on social media. I saw you waded in the whole discussion on the back of this issue of VBS, that if people want a black bank, there is a bank on sale, and that's the Mercantile Bank that has been operating in South Africa for a long time and owned by the Portuguese bank. And you are challenging whoever is interested to buy the bank. What is the story there with Mercantile Bank?
So the government of Portugal has spent a whole lot more money than it has. Its debt is 140% of GDP. The European Central Bank has said to Portugal, listen, you're living way beyond your means. You have to pay back the money. You have to sell some of the things you own in order to pay us your debts, reduce the thing. So they have looked around. They own a bank in South Africa called Mercantile Bank, owning 83% of the shares. And the bank is now on sale. It's been on sale for the past 18 months. And they did...
there are no offers for the bank?
They are.
Okay.
They did invite people to bid to buy the bank. Many companies and individuals did. They have shortlisted 4. Now, in South Africa, every day we get a lot of noise about people wanting to create a state-owned bank, despite the fact that we already have 4. Here's a ready-made bank. Stop talking noise. Stop making noise and talking nonsense. Go buy the bank if you really want a state-owned bank. It's going to cost you about 4 billion rand, and the government of Portugal is under pressure. It has to sell immediately.
Yeah.
The biggest opportunity. So if anyone really means what they say when they say they want a black bank, there's a bank, go buy it, it's ready.
A brief response from you. So what do you think then of that view? The people who hold the view that we need to have a black bank, and then if there's a bank owned by blacks, it needs to be supported. Your overall view of that argument?
The start, they have just killed VBS Mutual Bank, stolen everything there. The very people that say we need a black bank, they've killed it. It's not coming back. We have Itala Bank that is owned by the state. We have the South African Post Office that is owned by the state. We have the Industrial Development Corporation that is owned by the state. We've got the Public Investment Corporation that is controlled by the state. They all do the business of banking. Why can't you use those banks to do what you think needs to be done? Simply because you have a bank that's owned by black people, you think you're going to just take money and loot the thing like they did with VBS Mutual Bank? Can't the government change the license of the Itala Bank, for example, of the IDC, to do what it needs to do? The post office has been trying to ready itself. It's just not meeting the requirements of a bank. Can't the government put money there and make sure the post office will be the bank that it says it will do. And then tell me, Tim, what bank, how different will that bank work? What is it that it will do that the others are not doing?
Well,
if you go to a bank, you have to make sure that you are able to repay the loan. Is this because it's a black bank going to give you money for free?
I get you. So you're suggesting there's a lot of dishonesty that's
There's
going on.
There's a lot of dishonesty, and people are looking for yet another vehicle to steal money.
Thank you very much. That's Sikonathi Mantshantsha. Speaks his mind frankly, openly, and takes no prisoners. Thank you for having been our guest.
You're welcome.
And that's the Deputy Editor of the Financial Mail. And that's how we come to the end of the show. Until next time from us, good night to you.